The universe loves a messy bitch. And I hate that he or she does, but it's true. I wish I could just live in my shadow of over functioning and perfection because my Virgo self would just feel so at home, but that's not how it works. And I've just proven this so many times that it's painful at this point, which is that the universe loves when you're messy. And so I'm going to be sharing all about what that looks like, what messy really is, and what performative messiness is, and just everything that is so good and rich about letting yourself be seen in the middle. And it reminds me of when I was standing on stage in front of 60 people and was telling a story about my beloved dog, Buddy, and the love that we shared in his passing. And I blacked out, not once, mind you, but twice on stage in front of everyone at a storytelling show that was being recorded. So, this episode is going to be about what happened and why I actually think being willing to be messy is the most magnetic thing that a woman can do. So, messy gets a bad rap though, right? Like when you think of a messy woman, it's not usually like a really enticing visual because we've been trained to think that messy is not attractive. And messy, though, isn't the problem. It's one, your definition of what you think messy is, and two, being a performative perfectionist. That's really the problem because what you project is truly what you magnetize. And if you project polished all the time, then people who want the polished version of you, that's what they're going to expect all of the time. And that is freaking exhausting. And if you project honest, including the messy parts, you will attract people who want all of you. And being loved and seen for all of you, I think, is truly the greatest gift you will ever receive, ever. So, before we go into that, though, let's talk about what messy isn't. And it is not trauma dumping. One of my mentors always used to say that the thing that we want to avoid ever is when we are feeling something really deep and powerful and intense. The idea of having someone else take care of that is like handing someone a screaming child and being like, you figure this out. That's trauma dumping, right? It's like not asking for consent. It's waiting for someone to save you. And it's unprocessed and it's asking the listener to hold it when they either can't or won't or are unable to meet you in that and have no awareness, like you're not reading the room at all. Messy instead is being honest. It's letting people witness you without obligating them to save you, but it's also without needing them to fix it. It's also without needing you to have a pretty bow, but it's also not the part of you that's just like, here, hold my screaming child. One is discharging onto people and one is inviting them in. And I guarantee if you really sit with that, you know the difference of performative messy, where like you think it's going to get you views. This is like when I see a woman that hits record while she's crying. And again, I've done that before. Like you will see reels of me crying, but it's not because I'm asking for validation. I may just be in the middle of sharing something and get moved to tears, but I'm not sitting in front of my mirror crying and hitting record. There's a difference there. So let's talk about how the moment that I shared where I was messy and it was so uncomfortable. So, as I shared at the beginning of the show, I was on stage. I had applied for this storytelling show in Austin, gotten chosen I think there were 8 of us. It was a live audience. I invited literally all my friends and family. And the story was a very tender one. My dog had passed in December. I think the storytelling show was in February. So enough time had passed that I was ready to be with this tender part of me and to honor my boy. I was like, I'm going to tell the story for Buddy. It clearly wasn't a very light story. So there was a lot of charge, but I practiced and practiced and practiced. And I really felt like, okay, I'm ready. But when I got on stage, the emotion just overwhelmed me and it took over and I blacked out not once, but twice. Now, there's an interesting thread here that I actually want to double click on, which is that I wanted so badly for this to go well that I rehearsed this so many freaking times to the point where I was trying to memorize my entire story. Now, that may work for some people, but I think that was actually part of the problem was that I wanted it to be perfect and to nail every line. But that ended up actually making me so in my head and overwhelmed by the emotion that I couldn't remember anything. Because if I had actually just gone on stage and spoken from my heart and had like a couple of bullets to hit, of course, but to really just trust what wants to move through me, like I do on this podcast, it probably would have hit so hard. But that wasn't the lesson that I needed. So we're going to trust that, because when I blacked out, first off, I like immediately feel this huge wave of just mortifying embarrassment. I'm turning beet red. I mean, it feels like a lifetime, an eternity. When you're on stage, you can't remember what you want to say. Your brain is freaking scrambled eggs. So thank God I had the foresight to put my phone in my dress. I had pockets on the sides, and I got my phone out and I was able to read the end of my story after I fumbled twice. And then, because I was the fourth person before intermission, I had to go then face the audience right after I bombed. And I expected shame, pity. She couldn't get through it, or like that, oh, you did a good job, but like really feeling that they were like, what the hell did you just do? But what actually happened was I was stopped so many times by complete strangers who were completely touched and moved to tears by the authenticity of a woman letting herself be seen in the mess. I was so willing to let myself be seen in the awkwardness of not remembering my lines, but also in the deep love for my dog, because that's really what this was. It was a woman sharing the most heart wrenching pain of losing something she loved. Everyone can relate to that, whether you've lost your dog or not. Everyone knows what it's like to lose something that they care about. And that center point, that touching of the emotion, that's what people cared about. That's what they related to. One couple literally pulled me in as I was walking to go just bury my head into Eli. They pulled me in and they were like, "We are so proud of you. And we're so glad that you found love again." Just two strangers hugging me like a freaking ice cream sandwich. And then another woman just completely lost it on my shoulder, that she had just lost her soul dog too. And she was so grateful for my willingness to share that experience and to try to put that into words, because it reminded her how much she loved her baby. The thing that people respond to is not the perfection. It's not the delivery. It is your ability to be seen in your humanness. That's what people want. They want your humanity. They want your realness. They want proof that your love is real, that your dog mattered, that you weren't just reciting something, that you were really embodying and feeling it. And if I had nailed it, I guarantee the room wouldn't have been moved in the way that I wanted it to be, because the mess was the magnet. And this is what happens when you let yourself be messy in a moment that really matters. The people that are really moved by you will move in, they will lean in, and the people who are terrified of your vulnerability will check out. And that's exactly what we want. But the stage is just one moment, right? Because let's be honest, we're not on stage all the time. Very often, we're just in our day-to-day life. The stage is like a more fleeting moment. So what about being messy as a way of living instead of just on stage? Because this is where most women get stuck. They can tolerate being messy one moment, but can you actually tolerate changing your mind, being inconsistent, looking like you don't know what you're doing, being seen trying in public and failing? That's the next layer. That's where this gets harder. And that's my next story. So if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I manifested this mountain home that I'm recording in right now. Eli and I were nomadic for like, it was like close to a year. And we were burned out and tired, and we wanted to settle down. And we were like, let's go to the mountains. Let's have peace and quiet and nature. And so we moved to Boulder, and we thought that's exactly what we wanted. And we had this big move, and I shared it on my show, and I built my life around it. And then I stayed here for 6 months, and I realized I don't want to be here anymore. And you could imagine that on the outside looking in, people could project that's so messy. Like, you recorded a whole show on manifesting what you wanted, and you moved your whole life, and now you're changing your mind. Yes, I reserve the right to change my mind. And the judgment, it can be real. People can project, but I don't have control over that. Neither do you. And you may look to somebody flaky, ungrateful, unstable, but that's the thing that most women aren't willing to be seen in. And yes, it's messy, but it's also exactly what gave me clarity. So my willingness to fuck around and find out and tell the world, this is what I wanted, and then get it, and then change my mind, that's actually what allowed me to get to my 10 out of 10, my full yes. And I didn't change my mind because I was confused. It was quite the opposite. I changed my mind because I experienced something, and learn from it. That's what being messy gives you permission to do. You must be willing to go, try, learn, fuck up, and glean the wisdom. Because clarity doesn't come from getting it right the first time. Imagine how boring that would be if you just always nailed it. Clarity comes from being willing to be fully in something, learn what it has to teach you, and then move. And the women who try to get it perfect before they commit, they never get the data that they need to actually know what they want. Good luck trying to build a business that way. My business coach literally said this to me the other day. He's like, so are you going to just keep hiding until you have the perfect iteration? He's like, because good luck, that's never coming. How do you think you grow? You put a beta out for a reason, and then you get feedback, and then you make it better. But if you're not ever willing to be in the beta, you're never going to get the dream. So the women who move and change their minds and then move again, they end up with the 10 out of 10. But if you just stay in the comfortable 6 out of 10 because you're too scared to fuck up, then you're never going to get the dream that you actually want, or you're never going to collect the data to even let you know that that's not actually even what you want in the first place. And this is how it ties back to love, because you're not going to think your way into clarity about what kind of partnership you want. You have to go out and be in the arena. You got to be messy. You got to try on the wrong people by mistake. You got to go on the date when you didn't want to learn, oh, that was actually a no for me. And now I know, I have data. You got to move towards someone and then realize, like, you know what? That actually wasn't my person, but I had to jump 2 feet in. You can't do this 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You want to know how I know how to break up with the guy that I thought I was going to marry after I left my marriage? He was literally like everything I thought I wanted. I moved to Boston to go be with him. And within 6 days of moving to Boston, I knew with 100% certainty that he was not it. And if I kept doing the long distance, like, is he the one? I can't tell, keeping him at a distance, fantasizing about what that reality was, I would have never known. So I jumped 2 feet in, I moved to go be with him. And I had this feeling that it wasn't it, but I was like, you know what? I just got to go. I got to go for it. And then I knew within like 6 days. And it was so uncomfortable, but then I wasn't wasting years of my life in the wrong relationship. So both stories that I shared with you today point to the same thing, that what you project is what you magnetize. Projecting polished means you attract polished only on the surface, and then you will exhaust yourself for trying to maintain it. And so will they. Projecting honest, AKA messy, is how you attract the wild, imperfect, extraordinary version of love, friendship, and life. Okay. And you don't have to be perfect to be magnetic. You have to be honest. And honest most of the time looks like messy. So I want you to actually try something new this week for me. So I usually always leave you with a question, but this week I actually want to leave you with a homework assignment. My third grade teacher's coming out. Where in your life are you performing instead of just being honest? I this week realized I was trying so hard to keep up with so many people, because that's the Virgo in me. I want to have like every relationship feel 10 out of 10 taken care of, nourished. And I couldn't. I was just dropping too many balls. I'm like, I can't be tethered to 50 people. So you know what I did? I stopped responding. And I figured if people really need me, they'll get back to me again. Or I just pour into the people that I have bandwidth for. And it's not because I don't love these other people or think that they're wonderful. I just didn't have any more bandwidth, and I wasn't going to make myself wrong for trying to keep an inbox zero. You know who keeps an inbox zero? A woman who is white knuckling life. Or you have an amazing assistant and systems, and that's like a whole other thing. But I don't have that right now. I have an amazing assistant, but not one who's answering all of my texts from my personal friends. Okay. And I want to know, where are you afraid to change your mind? Journal on this. Like, where have you been afraid to pivot because you decided something and now you're scared of hurting someone's feelings? I just did this earlier today. I told someone I wanted to hire them, realized I'd fucked up and that I actually didn't need their services, and then had to message them and be like, you know what? I actually don't need this right now. Was it a little uncomfortable? Yes. But what's more uncomfortable? That 10-second conversation, or thinking that I am going to be in the wrong relationship, a working relationship for months, paying for something I didn't actually need? And where are you editing yourself before anyone has even asked you to? And if they do ask you to, that's probably not the right relationship for you. So I want you to take these questions. I want you to sit with them. I want you to go on a walk with God. I want you to journal and really be honest with yourself, because the permission slip that you don't need, but I'm going to give you anyway, you're allowed to be messy. You're allowed to black out on stage. You're allowed to move to Boulder and then leave. You're allowed to live a life that isn't on a linear track, because no one's life is. And the right people, the right love, the right work, none of them are looking for your polished. They're looking for you, the real you, and you're only available when you're willing to be a little bit of a mess.